Purple Daily is daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.
I will ride with this group.
Seriously, man. Please.
And away we go.
First and foremost, our guy Declan is alive and well after a 2-day bachelor party extravaganza. 36 holes of golf?
Yes.
Did you have more beverages or holes of golf consumed?
That's actually a great question. I think holes of golf consumed because Saturday was a struggle. Friday was the all out night. That was a little bit much.
On beverages Friday night for you? Just a rough estimate. I don't expect you to have an exact.
God. Between the shooters that were consumed on the golf course, the beer that was consumed on the golf course, the beers that were back at the Airbnb, 20 plus. 20 plus between everything that was consumed there. You know what's bad when it's just a mutual agreement between me and my brother of you need to go to bed. You need just
what time? What time was?
That was actually like 11:30. That was like 11:30 on Friday night. But yeah, just
sir,
you're probably right.
You need to go to bed.
I need to go to bed.
Good for you. Good for Liam.
So he's alive. Declan's here. He still smells like Fireball a little bit through the screen. But boys, we have we're going to get to a hard count today because there's a few different topics from kind of around the league, including a Netflix roast of Tom Brady I caught the last hour and a half. Oh my God. Mm-hmm. And roasts are like gear up for the uncomfortable always, right? But this was wild. So we'll get to that.
I saw a great tweet last night that said roasts on cable are now dead because Netflix just showed you what a roast really is.
Yes. At one point, Gronk just went off script and started describing in the most vulgar possible fashion what Tom Brady did to Bill Belichick from multiple states away. But we're gonna start the show with Judd's positional power rankings. Now that we know free agency is not completely over, there's still a couple things that could be done. But the roster is largely what it is after free agency and the draft. Let's see how good this roster is. We'll go through. You'll rank the positions. We can talk about what we think of this roster. A shout out to our friends at Quick Trip, the presenting sponsor of Purple Daily, Judd.
Speaking of the power rankings of places that you want to stop to make your life easier, you need gasoline, you need a snack, you need breakfast, lunch, or dinner, and Quick Trip is going to be number one on that list every single time because it's a great place to pick up your everyday items, milk, bread, produce. It doesn't matter. They've got it all. When you don't want to bother with the grocery store, well, Quick Trip is right there. Quick, easy, and a great value. And again, if you need gasoline, you can just drop in and get groceries as well. I can't think of a better place in my power rankings to start than Quick Trip.
Well, let's get to the positional power rankings. How are you taking us through this exercise? Are we going worst to best?
We're gonna go no. In this case, we're gonna go best to worst because I feel like we should start off with the positives here because there actually are. There are some nice ones, very solid ones.
And how many position groups are there? Are you going interior?
I'm ready. I was ready for that question because I was very intentional. As crazy as I was very intentional here.
Did you collaborate with anyone?
No, hell no. Yeah, Stella. Stella and I were like, what? I said, Stella, what do you think? And she told me. She's like, first of all, no special teams because I think that's too, we don't even know yet.
Yeah.
They've signed another punter now, and there might be a punting guy.
And how do you rank
don't know.
the special teams unit above or below the guards?
Exactly.
I don't know. It's
exactly. So I for now, just because we don't know enough, eliminated special teams. I have 11 position groups, but your question, Phil, is a very valid one. For instance, defensive line will be one group. So I didn't do defensive tackles.
But our edges are different than defensive line.
Yes. It's a 3-4. So the defensive line is 3 guys. Edges are different. But then I did separate the offensive tackles from the interior because to me there's a huge gap there.
Okay.
So I was very intentional here about how I went about this exercise to paint a picture on May the 6th of where things stand positionally for the Vikings.
Sure. Okay.
So are we prepared?
I mean, yeah, I feel like
much like the Kentucky Derby on Saturday, are we off? Is it?
Are we gonna get a photo finish with three Vikings position groups all coming down to the wire at the same time?
Got to get the inside pole. You got to get inside there, don't you? That's what we learned. You got to get inside. Okay. Positional power rankings. Number 1. So again, I'm going from strongest to weakest, just to be very clear. Number 1, safety. Harrison Smith, not what he was, but he's still very solid. Cam Bynum has turned into a player. And the fact that you used, and I don't know if this is even the plan now, but the fact that you felt obligated, or at least Brian Flores did, to use 3 safeties last year, and Josh Metellus was damn good. You go 3 deep there at a place where you're ordinarily counting on 2 guys. And I think we'd all agree that of the secondary problems that this team might have encountered in 2023, safety was not one. So I think safety as of right now, to me, from a positional depth and strength, so not like superstar power at the very top, because we'll get to that, but just from a conversation of strength, safety is my top one.
Well, you have a potential future Hall of Famer who's still playing at a really high level, Harrison Smith. And you have a system that highlights safety play in ways that other defensive systems don't, because Brian Flores asks his safeties to be much more active as pass rushers. Yep. So like the Viking safeties, I believe, led the NFL by a mile in pressures generated because of the system. So, yeah, I mean, go back to Ed Donatel. Ed Donatel was telling his safeties, just kind of sit back there and watch everyone else play defense. Just hang back 20 yards,
just
whatever.
Go too high.
Keep everything underneath. This system is asking safeties to be active, and they have some really good players. The fact that you have like a first-round pick that might get cut too in Lewis Cine from a couple years ago, it speaks somewhat to Lewis Cine, but also to like they got a bunch of guys that can play in front of him.
And Metellus proving what he proved to me is what puts this position over the top.
Yeah.
Because if Harrison Smith decided to retire right now, you wouldn't say, "Oh my God, they're screwed." So safety is 1. Number 2, and just to be clear, this exercise is not going. I'm not going to be, at least not yet. I'm not going to change things because of perception of guys being hurt potentially. So I'm going with everyone healthy right now. So I'm not allowing that, except for one place where a guy is missing entirely. But if a guy has injury history, but he's playing right now, I'm not going to hold that against him. Okay. Number 2, offensive tackle. Christian Darrisaw and Brian O'Neill are 2 of the best in the entire league. Darrisaw is going to get paid probably next year. He is one of the most important people in the eventual maturation of a right-handed quarterback in J.J. McCarthy. Brian O'Neill is proven. So I think on opening day, if you were to rank the offensive tackles, what duo of offensive tackles among the 32 teams would you want? Vikings are top 5.
Yeah.
So number 2, offensive tackle.
So was safeties just depth and more kind of Swiss Army knife usage the reason that this is higher than tackle? Because I feel like Darrisaw and O'Neill being one of the better combos in the NFL would trump the safety position.
It's very close. I felt like the safeties, because you can use 3, but your argument is valid. So yes, they're incredibly close. But yeah, I just went with the fact that your safeties go 3 deep, that you play them, and you play them consistently, or at least that you did, trumped offensive tackle by a little bit. But there's a case to be made that you could flip them.
Yeah, I mean, I probably flip it, but I totally understand why you put safety number 1. And I'm curious, there's another offensive group that could easily make a case for number 1 or number 2. And I'm curious, maybe they're coming up at number 3 here.
I think they might be.
They've got a handful of choices for number 1 on this power ranking.
Yes. Number 3, wide receiver group.
Yeah.
Okay. So star power wise, they're number 1. Like if you went with star power, Justin Jefferson. So Jefferson, Addison, but then the reason why they're 3 is because it goes Jefferson, Addison, wait for it a little more, Brandon Powell. And so, yes.
Like Declan froze up on us.
Yeah, he was
there.
freezing up. He disagreed with my point, and somehow I magically pushed a button and basically took him out off the show. No, he did have a good point. So, yes, because I was going through this last night. Brandon Powell is definitely, at this point in time, unless someone really surprises in training camp, the third guy. And I think the fourth guy might be this Trent Sherfield, who they signed from the Bills, who is a really good special teams player and blocker. But this is purely a depth thing. So, like, if I was going through star power, this is an easy wide receivers are one, Phil. But because I'm going through who's got depth, I dropped the receivers behind the safeties and offensive tackles.
Yeah, I mean, you've got the best wide receiver in the NFL, but you don't know who your WR3 is. Right. So it is a stark contrast here. Yeah, I think there's going to be people that would fight to put wide receiver number one just because of Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison. I'm not going to fight you too much here. I think you've nailed the three position groups in the top three, but there will be debate about which one should be number 1, 2, and 3.
No question. And what's funny is, and I think we did this around the same time last year, wide receivers might have been one, because at that time, KJ Osborne was coming off a really nice season.
Yeah. And
so it was like, at that point, it's like we definitively know that the Vikings have three good receivers. So the loss, well, the fact that Osborne didn't have a great year, play dropped off, he leaves, drops them, because I think we all like Powell, but at the end of the day, I don't think we would say, yeah, that's a definitive wide receiver 3. I think we'd say that's probably an ideal 4, and he has some special teams value as well. So that's
and also you're playing 17 game schedules, guys get hurt, you're going to have, Jefferson missed half the season last year, right? So it's not even just who's your wide receiver 3, who's your wide receiver 4 that might get some run if somebody gets hurt at some point too, right?
He's back.
So, okay. It's funny because Declan is less hungover than his internet after the bachelor party this weekend.
Yeah, it's very, very strange. And I think I'm still a little slowly crawling on as the internet crawls up there. So I'm just going to hang out in the background here as you go through the list a little
Sounds good. All right. Who's your number 4 here?
This is the problem. Never disagree with me again. Never disagree with me again. That's what happens. Okay. So safeties, offensive tackles, wide receivers, position group number 4 of the 11 that I ranked, edge rushers. And at first you might be like, hold on a second. This sounds great. Judd, sports dad, Danielle Hunter's gone. What are you talking about? Jonathan Grenard, Dallas Turner, Andrew Van Ginkel. And then I'm going to throw a wild card at you that we don't know yet. But don't forget, this team wrote a very nice UDFA check to Andre Carter II last year. And he did not look prepared, but there were some people at the time that he was signed after the 2023 draft that were as excited about him as Ivan Pace. And we found out that Carter's conditioning, so he was a military guy, and it wasn't that he wasn't in fine shape for that job, but he really wasn't in great football shape. And I think there were a lot of things, and the Vikings probably knew this at the time and weren't going to talk about it. It looked like there were a lot of things that needed to be fine-tuned. So, yes, Danielle Hunter being gone hurts. But again, Grenard, first-round pick in Turner, Van Ginkel, potentially Carter II. I would argue that that while they've lost a top player, I would argue there's more to like here in totality than there was a year ago at this time, because of the fact that if nothing else, again, you go 3D.
Also on Andre Carter II here, just a guy that he's probably not a super household name unless you're obsessing over the bottom parts of the Vikings depth chart. But like you said, they identified him as a priority undrafted free agent. It was kind of him and Ivan Pace, and we saw what Ivan Pace did. He was ready to just jump right in. Andre Carter II coming from Army and just some of the conditioning hurdles that he had to get over, the way that you train to be part of the Army program and Army football team is different than NFL. So a lot of people said he's going to need some time to just get into NFL shape. But here's the crazy thing. Andre Carter II was 104th on the consensus big board for last season's draft, which puts him in the later part of the 3rd round. At one point, he peaked at 23 on someone's big board. So there are some mock drafts, and again, these are just mock drafters on the internet, whatever, but like that had him as a fringe first or second round pick caliber talent that fell completely out of the draft, and he's going into year 2 here in the Viking system. So that's a fun one to keep an eye on at the offseason workouts, OTAs, mini camps, and training camp to see if there's something there like there was with Ivan Pace last year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And your depth is good. So edge rushers are number 4. Number 5 might surprise you a bit, but I think it's going to, well, one, it wasn't terrible a year ago, but I think it's going to take potentially a step up. Number 5, interior linebackers. So Ivan Pace Jr., as a UDFA, had a really nice season, and I would expect improvement there. Blake Cashman, who was signed as a free agent, the Eden Prairie kid and former golfer, is coming off a solid year. And while Jordan Hicks contributed, Jordan Hicks went from a guy that I thought probably shouldn't be back after 2022 to being used in Flores' system and contributing a lot in 23. But Cashman is younger, quicker at this point. I think the interior linebackers for what Brian Flores wants are going to be pretty good. Now, there might be, again, some issues in the run game because I don't know that I am sold on the defensive line at all. And in my opinion, there's only so much that the linebackers can do if the guys in front of them aren't strong. But I actually, right now, the depth might not be great. We don't know yet. But I, right now, like the interior linebacker position or that room more in 2024 than I did a year ago.
I don't hate this take. I think they've done a really good job of finding a combination of young players through draft and young-ish free agents at both edge and linebacker. How are they going like the last 2 years, how are they going to replace Eric Kendricks and Jordan Hicks and Danielle Hunter with Jonathan Grenard, Dallas Turner, Andrew Van Ginkel, Blake Cashman, and Ivan Pace? You could argue that as we were all asking those questions of, oh my gosh, how could you ever replace this? They're better now than they were 2 years ago collectively at those two positions.
And younger.
Blake Cashman, too, who I feel like we always just forget about in this free agency class. Like we always talk about Grenard, and rightfully so. But like Blake Cashman, according to PFF last year, an 84 run defense grade. In coverage, he had a 75 grade. He had a good pass rushing grade of 73. He was like low-key a very effective all-facet type of linebacker. And I feel like we completely forget about him because we just want to talk about the draft and Grenard and Van Ginkel. Blake Cashman, to Judd's point, probably a position that we also wanted them to address in the draft, and yet Blake Cashman was also one of the best effective linebackers in football last year.
Yep. And it's like a 1 year sample of him being a heavy load, like heavy snap linebacker. He had to work his way up from like special teams, but he was great last year.
Right. So interior linebacker, which probably in fairness too, in the system is not that sexy. They are number 5. A very sexy position is next, though. Number 6 is the quarterback position.
Oh, wow.
Number 6.
Oh, wow.
Uh-huh. I'll tell you why.
I feel like this is a hot take.
I'll tell you why. And number 7, when I
really
explain, and the 7th one, when I explain myself, will make more sense. But yes, number 6, and I'll tell you why. First of all, the head coach. This is what he does. This is what he is focused on. So, Sam Darnold's going to start. J.J. McCarthy, we don't know yet. But I don't think this room is as in bad shape. Or, I shouldn't say that. I feel like there's a perception that we don't know. Is this room good? You know, Kirk is gone, which I think people aren't upset about now. But the fact is, Darnold is a veteran. Now, he's coming off a season in which he didn't play much, but he definitely learned. And Darnold's also at the point in his career now where he's slotted pretty perfectly. There's no expectation. He's no longer the high draft pick from the Jets who, oh my God, is there something there where he still could be that guy? I think we know that at best, he's probably going to be a solid player. He's going to be a solid starting QB, that the expectation that this guy could somehow be a star is now long gone. And quite frankly, I think in the circumstance, that's perfect. J.J. McCarthy can learn, but we don't know that he's not going to play. I think when you start with a top 2 here, I'm putting them at 6.
Wow.
And again, I'm also doing this, and it probably is a hot take. I'm also doing this in part because Kevin O'Connell's emphasis, his workload, and they've now got some coaches that are going to be completely focused on this group. Quarterback's number 6.
Interesting. I think I would flip. First of all, I disagree. I would put running back above quarterback for sure, and I'm curious to see if you've got running back 7th or 8th here. But I think there's a lot of upside and potential and hope at quarterback and talent, because Sam Darnold is one of the most talented quarterbacks in the NFL. If you just look at scouting reports, arm talent, like athletic ability, all those things. J.J. McCarthy, there's a reason why he was, the 10th overall pick. But it's all projection, because neither one of those guys has done anything meaningful on an actual NFL football field, and Darnold's been trying for like a half decade. Whereas like Aaron Jones is bona fide one of the top 12 running backs in the NFL, even at age 30. And I think Ty Chandler has shown some really interesting flashes. So but again, hey, a couple years when we've done like the quarterback rankings, I had Joe Burrow in my top 10 before and got mocked for it. And then all of a sudden, and I had Trevor Lawrence then last year in my top 10 and got mocked for it. You're projecting projecting that when it's all said and done, you think that system coach with talent is going to have positive results here.
Yes. And because the organizational emphasis is going to be so high here, I think that there is and I use this as a somewhat positive term, I think that there's an organizational bias to this spot.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, before we get to the other positions that you have quarterback ranked above here, a shout out to our friends at AG1. In fact, if you're looking to maybe replenish after a wild weekend, not that that applies to anyone on the show here, AG1 is constantly searching on how to do things better. 52 iterations of their formula and counting. The team is always trying to find better ways to source, test, and aim to find the best quality ingredients available. Each scoop of AG1 contains whole food, sourced ingredients that support gut health, focus, immune health, and more. I've been using AG1, these travel packs actually here. I've made the full-on switch to travel packs for about 7 years now. It's just been a huge part of my day-to-day routine. And if you're interested in taking ownership of your health, it starts with AG1. Try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3K2 and 5 of these free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase. Go to drinkag1.com/purple daily. That's drinkag1.com/purple daily. And hey, it's Mother's Day week. Okay, don't be stuck on Thursday or Friday holding an empty bag for the woman that raised you, that birthed you, that supported you and your football viewing out there, okay? Bachman's is here to help you show appreciation for the incredible women in your life in a way that speaks volumes. So you can go to any of the Bachman's locations in the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, Apple Valley, Eden Prairie, Plymouth, Fridley, Maplewood, Cedar Acres, Lakeville. You can literally just walk in. They've got people all over the place that are smart and helpful, whether it's flowers, whether it's gift cards, or some other gift that you're not even thinking of. I recommend literally walk into a Bachman's, put your arms out and say, help me find something amazing for my wife, for my sister, for my mother, for my grandmother. Hanging baskets, 20% off shrub and hybrid roses, 20% off raised garden beds, bird bath, jewelry, apparel. It's a world of ideas for Mother's Day at Bachman's in the Twin Cities.
Beautiful.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, we are on to number 7, Vikings positional rankings. We went safety, offensive tackles, wide receivers, edge rushers, interior linebackers, and quarterbacks, top 6. Number 7 on my list, not the running backs yet. Wow,
the hate, the Aaron Jones slander here.
And I actually dropped this position because of while I am not using bias of injury, I am flat out on this one uncertain when this guy will come back. Tight ends would be higher with TJ Hawkinson, but we got no clue when he's playing. I think that there's an assumption he might be back in a month. But I mean, this guy had a serious knee injury. He's not young. I'm sure he will be back, but the point is I don't know when. So right now your depth chart goes Josh Oliver, Johnny Munt, Nick Muse, and at some point, Hawkinson. With Hawkinson, I probably put this in my top 5. In fact, I do. This is a top 5 spot.
You've got one of the best pass catching tight ends and one of if not the best run blocking tight ends.
It's top 5. And he's going to be, whether it's Darnold or McCarthy eventually starting, he's going to be a magnificent safety blanket. Like, he's perfect. So the position goes up, but right now, with it being iffy when he does come back, I'm putting them number 7. The one good thing is, and not that this guy is a pass catcher extraordinaire, Josh Oliver, I think, had better hands than we were sold on or thought last year.
He did. Very soft hands.
So he's not a mess. He can catch. But that being said, this is a group that sort of by default is at 7 because of the fact that one of the better pass catching tight ends in the entire league at least is going to start the year probably on IR.
Are running backs 11th on your list? Are you you're going to cut Ty Chandler
out
of training camp? Or
there's a problem. There is I used the term earlier very much on purpose because number 8 on my list, the aforementioned running backs. I said that there's a positional bias toward quarterback. Well, at number 8, Aaron Jones is the top guy. And yes, he's 30. And yes, that plays a role in my thinking because we don't know. I mean, Phil, we've seen a lot of guys at that age at this spot just drop off a cliff. Now, Aaron Jones, when he played, was very good. So hopefully that's the case. But here's my bigger problem. My problem here is exactly why I also put safeties 1. Depth of the position as a whole. Remember, I'm doing positional rankings. I'm not doing just one guy. Because Justin Jefferson, wide receivers is 1. If I'm just like, and the running backs are probably, top 5 or 6 with Jones. But the positional bias problem that I have here is I can't get over how quickly at times Ty Chandler has been tied to the sideline. Now that seems to be ending, but I thought it was going to end at times last year and it didn't. And I guess my question is, and when I say mistakes here, this does not mean running the ball mistakes. This also means blocking mistakes. I guess my question is this. How does Kevin O'Connell feel about Chandler? Because from the preseason game that he had in Seattle last year when he was magnificent, and O'Connell's like, yeah, he was, but, and there was a big but there. I like Jones, but he's 30, and Ty Chandler is definitively 2, and I think he could be a co-1 at times.
Yeah.
Depending on how the coach feels about him. And Kene Nwangwu, who I think is sort of off the grid completely, is 3. So this is done not as an Aaron Jones hate, but far more by my uncertainty about the positional depth here.
I would say this in defense of Aaron Jones' age. He doesn't have any really huge workload seasons that would scare you. I mean, you look at over the course of the last 10 or 15 years, like when Zeke Elliott goes for 350 touches or whatever it is, and then like the age cliff comes a lot quicker. Aaron Jones, the last 4 so here's his career: 81 carries, 133, 236, 300 and above is like big time bell cow. Even like today's NFL, 250, 270 is bell cow.
Sure.
He's never come close to that amount of carries because he's always been in a timeshare Green Bay's backfield. In fact, his 236 carries in 2019 are the most he's ever had. 201, 171, 213, 142. So I feel like the Packers did a good job of kind of just like making sure that there's always a second guy there, just like a lightning and a thunder situation. And if you look at the numbers too, I mean, he's still averaging 4.6 yards a carry last year. Got better as the year went on when he got healthier and he put up all those 100-plus yard games to end the season. And then on the Ty Chandler front, he was 4.5 yards a carry starting in the last month. If you combine those guys together, 246 carries, 4.6 yards a carry, well over 1,000 yards, 51 catches for 400 yards too between the two of them. So the age thing, I don't know. I might be wrong on this, but like the age thing for Aaron Jones doesn't scare me as much because he hasn't had the big, red flag workload season that some of the other running backs have.
Mm-hmm.
So Dalvin Cook and Aaron Jones both entered the NFL in 2017. So before last season, so from 2017 through 2022, Dalvin Cook had 1,500 touches. And a bulk of that were rushing attempts, but 1,500 touches. Aaron Jones in the same amount of sample from 2017 to 2022, 1,277. So that's almost a season's worth of touches that Aaron Jones has not had compared to what Dalvin Cook had, who completely fell off the cliff. Yeah, I don't know if Aaron Jones has like 3 or 2 more years of really effective where he's averaging 5.6 yards per touch, which is really, really damn good for a running back. But I do think there's still a good amount there left, and probably one of the more effective running backs that KOC will likely work with, because even with the Rams, they never really prioritize having good running backs post was the really good running back in 2018, Todd Gurley. I don't know if he was even there for Todd Gurley. So I think Aaron Jones still has plenty amount left in the tank to make this offense effective.
Yeah, this is largely about me needing to see a commitment to Chandler as well. Because if Chandler's gonna make 2 blocking mistakes and that's it, now it's down to 1 guy. So I need, from a positional point, I need to see more from them. So
slander, the Aaron Jones slander
I got
is
Jefferson's
real here.
position group 3rd here. That's technically slander too.
I mean, you got Blake Cashman 3 slots higher than Aaron Jones.
You know what? Because he's with Ivan Pace. This is all about me taking a long, hard look at what this franchise is doing positionally.
I love Ivan Pace and Blake Cashman come in for 5 minutes, 1 good season. Aaron Jones, throw him out. Not okay. Well, it got to prove something.
Number 8,
Chandler and Aaron Jones,
running back. Number 9, cornerbacks.
Yeah.
And here's the interesting thing: this could, a year from now, if this works, these guys could be top 5. Who knows? Right now, my presumed starters are Byron Murphy Jr. out inside full time now, so not outside inside, but he will be inside full time. And keep in mind, teams use 3 corners, the nickel package, all the time. Shaq Griffin, Mekhi Blackman, a Caleb Evans challenging. That's my assumption. So Blackman and Griffin outside, Murphy inside. There's a ton of unknown here, but I do feel like the more I thought about this and examined it, there's a ton of unknown here, but I do think that there's upside here. Like Blackman, as a rookie, I thought, flashed at times. He played pretty well at times. Mm-hmm. Shaq Griffin is a veteran. He has, I don't know where he's at. Like, I think that there could be some fear that the cliff is coming here. He got he was with was it Jacksonville last year? They released him. Houston picked him up. But my point is, I don't think that this is as bleak as we think completely. I would love to see one more bigger name here. But that being said, I'm putting him at 9. But I also think that this might be the position group that has a real potential if things go well, especially if they add 1 guy a year from now, where this could be a top 5 group.
Nice to have a first-round pick in 2025, too, in case you need to draft a 6-foot physical cornerback.
Good point.
Another benefit to the draft falling your way in terms of J.J. McCarthy, not having to trade up to number 4 or number 5. Okay, we've gotten to the last 2 position groups here. We know, I think, what they are. Curious what order you have them in.
If you've been keeping score at home, you know exactly what they are. Number 10, the penultimate position group, interior offensive line.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Enough said. What's number 11?
Dalton Reisner is, I guess, not coming back. KOC, starting at some point in last year during practices, started to rave about Blake Brandel's work. But, I mean, as of right now, he is your opening day starting left guard. Garrett Bradbury improved, and Ed Ingram improved in 2023. But that's relative to what they improved from, which was, it's not like they improved into being Pro Bowl players. So I would just say this. For as much as I think that their tackles are outstanding, I think the interior offensive line continues to leave a lot to be desired potentially. And And I would not be surprised if a year from now, when we reconvene for this exercise, I am spewing some very different names at you at this position group.
Yeah. Yep. No, enough said. I'm not sure we need to spend 30 more seconds on their guard situation. It's been a revolving door for 10 years, which leaves defensive line, right?
Defensive line, yeah. Jerry Tillery.
Old Jer.
Harrison Phillips, who's the nose tackle, but probably should be outside. And if he was, this ranking would be different. Jonathan Bullard, Jaquelin Roy. Who knows? Like, at least when I say the interior offensive line, I feel like we sort of know. We might not like what we know, but you sort of know. I just gave you a complete unknown with the best player probably miscast in the alignment. It's the one place that unless Jerry Tillery is Warren Sapp, it's the one place that I think they just have not addressed really. Like, I think they wanted to. Yeah. In free agency, they got outbid. Byron Murphy Jr., who I think they probably would have traded up to take if they could have. They couldn't. So it's the one position, and interior offensive line too. But those are two positions that I feel are two that just have not really been addressed.
But you've been making this point throughout the entire offseason. It's kind of a 2-year, not rebuild, a 2-year retooling. Right. If you nail your quarterback in the draft this year, they nailed future edge rusher potentially in Dallas Turner, and now you've got a lot of cap space for next year. Some of that's going to go away when you pay Justin Jefferson, so you're not going. I don't think you're going to be top 3 in cap space when it's all said and done, but you're going to be like top 10 cap space. What's the one defensive tackle or cornerback you can spend a truckload of money on? Yes. And then with your first round pick, I mean, let's say they nailed McCarthy, they nailed Dallas Turner, they re-signed Justin Jefferson, re-signed Christian Darrisaw, and then you get a crack with your first round pick and with a truckload of free agency money for a defensive tackle and a cornerback. If you nail it's an if, because you might whiff on one or two of those things, but if you nail those things, boy, you're off to the races in 2025.
Right. Well, and also with smart teams too, you might not know that you nailed them, but you aren't close to bailing. So like if Dallas Turner plays okay, but he's not great, yeah, you're not going to say, oh my God, he's a bust.
Yeah.
Year 2 to me becomes the most important. But yes, I think you're right. I think the second year of this plan definitely 1000% involves a big, bulky guy that can rush the quarterback in the middle of that defensive line.
Yes. Football. So in order, Judd's position group power rankings from best to worst: safety number 1, offensive tackle number 2, wide receiver number 3, edge number 4, inside linebacker number 5 with Ivan Pace and Blake Cashman, quarterback 6, a lot of projection there, tight end 7, running back 8, cornerback 9, interior offensive line 10, and defensive line, the down lineman in that 3-4 defense, number 11. And all of that presented in part by our friends at Ugly Deck. Judd rocking the Ugly Deck trucker hats look good on you, man. You should.
Oh, thank you very much.
Trucker hats in the
nice hat here too. Nice hat. And yes, it's not just a nice hat, but it's a company that's going to come and save the day. Look at that. When it comes to your deck, it's springtime. It's the perfect time to say, you know what? It's deck time. And that means a new deck from uglydeck.com. As you are seeing right there, these decks are beautiful. And now you're saying, how do I get that done, Sports Dad? I'm telling you, it's as simple as this. Install or DIY, uglydeck.com, offering up to $1,000 off for a limited time. With install, you're going to get the best carpenters. That's what Sports Dad would use. But with DIYers, you're going to get the best coaches to help you from start to finish. Ugly Deck is on a simple mission. Much like we're on a mission to see a certain team win a Lombardi trophy, Ugly Deck wants to rid the world, in this case, of ugly decks. Uglydeck.com, setting up appointments now at their Shakopee Deck Design showroom. Check out uglydeck.com and make sure that you tell them the guys at Score North and Purple Daily said that it was deck time for you. Uglydeck.com.
And a quick shout out to the exclusive personal injury law firm of Purple Daily. That would be Nicolay Law, which knows that when you or a loved one gets injured, ordinary life can come to a stop. Things can get complicated. That's where Nicolay Law comes in. They understand the process. They understand every play the insurance companies have to run, and they want to make sure you get the compensation you deserve after an accident. So if you've been injured, get Minnesota's local award-winning injury lawyers. Get Nicolay. Start your path to winning at nicolaylaw.com or give them a call at 1-855-NICOLAY.
Green 18! Green 18!
Let's do a hard count topic here. The hard count on Purple Daily, where we go around the NFL and football world. The Netflix roast of Tom Brady last night. I caught the last hour. It's like a 2.5 hour extravaganza. I caught the last hour or hour and a half. First of all, wow. Here's the line. Here's everybody 10 steps past whatever the line of, is that making people feel uncomfortable? That was amazing. What did you guys think? The Belichick came in and he did a session, and then he stood up there. He sat up with the panel for the next hour and just took it from everybody.
Brady took a shot at Giselle.
Yep, the love of my life.
Football.
A lot of shots.
Yeah,
a lot of shots.
I really do miss the love of my life, football.
Oh my God.
Oh man, the Peyton Manning dig that he took too. He was like, Peyton, whether you're living in Denver, whether you're living in Tennessee, we know that you'll always be living in my shadow.
I loved the just constant trashing of how stupid Gronk is. Everyone just took a shot at Gronk, which I also really, really enjoyed. I like
Sound it out, Gronk. Sound it out.
Yeah.
He's like, they got the prompter going.
Nikki Glazer took a shot at Gronk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he is a very easily punchable guy to punch down on. But I love that type of humor. That is my type of comedy. I don't find that offensive. I don't find that uncomfortable. I love that type of humor. So I thought it was great. I jumped in right at the end of the Randy Moss, because Randy Moss was one of the panelists. So Moss was pretty good. And then when they booed Kim Kardashian, the entire crowd just booed Kim K for the first 2 minutes she was on stage, which was great. But I loved it. I thought it was awesome.
So, a Boston sports podcast, I think it's called Six Rings. They did an actual post-game show on this roast.
Genius.
4 guys batting around, and they actually said Moss was the worst because he didn't understand the assignment. I guess he was he didn't get you're supposed to just rip and rip and rip, and so Moss didn't. But what did you guys think of the Jeffrey Ross massage shot at Robert Kraft, where Brady said, "Don't pull that," or "Don't say that."
Don't say
S.
That looked
anymore.
like Brady was legit mad, because he went in and he covered his mouth and kind of tried to whisper it
into the
but
microphone.
there's a hot mic there.
Yeah, and
then he kind of went back awkwardly. It looked like he was genuinely. And then, by the way, Robert Kraft was instead of roasting Tom, just lavishly praised Tom and then did a cheers. And then Kevin Hart got Robert Kraft and Bill Belichick to awkwardly go up and do a cheers and a shot together.
Yes.
It was, yeah. If you don't like roasts, you're probably not going to love this one, because it was wildly uncomfortable in some certain spots, but it's pretty amazing. Which Minnesota sports figure would you want to see get roasted?
Joe Mauer. Because I would love to see people actually be mean to him. Because I'd be curious, how can you be mean to that guy? And I would love for his teammates to just roast him for being, and that could just be him being very plain Jane, peanut butter and jelly guy. But I would love to see people just take shots.
What about Kirk? What if we brought Kirk back for a roast? Would he be able to sit there for 2 hours?
No, I don't think he could take
Mike Zimmer.
Yeah, it'd be great. I don't think he could.
Kyle Rudolph, who didn't include him in his 2,000 word exit article.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of who would be fun. I feel it has to be a person with flaws. I get your point, Dex, about Mauer, and that would be fun, but I don't know that there's anything on the bone to roast him about. That
because there's not a divorce.
Divorced.
No, I hear you. Yeah.
He never did anything. I mean, I don't think he did.
Oh,
much.
Brady admitting to deflating the footballs was breaking news last night.
Yes.
He said if you wanted to pay $20 million for former
about
FBI
that?
agent to research. You could have just paid me $20 million to tell you the truth that I did it.
It's like,
oh man,
I'm trying to think of like who would be while he was alive, Puckett. Puckett would have been a great guy to roast because Puckett had
cheating
flaws,
and
but he also, I think, would have gotten it.
Yeah,
like because he gave it out.
Yeah.
It's got to be somebody like, I think Kirk would start to cry.
I don't know. I feel like Kirk has enough like self-awareness, self-deprecation going up on stage. So yeah, hit us, let us know in the feedback emails or in the YouTube comment section. Who do you want to see get roasted?
KG being roasted.
Yeah, I could. Because
his speech would be great because he'd lash back. Well, Kirk would be great, but I just don't know if Kirk could handle it.
Well, that's part of the fun is watching those guys squirm because, Tom Brady could barely handle it last night. And he's like the toughest-minded football player of all time. Oh, it's if you get a chance, go back and strap in 2.5 hours live on Netflix. So.
Yeah, until you get uncomfortable and then you'll just shut it off.
Also, hit us up. Do you disagree or agree with Judd's positional power rankings? Do you disagree or agree with quarterback being 6th out of the 11?
On my list. Number
positions?
6 on my list.
Let us know. And Flagrant Howls is in full effect. Flagrant Howls just became the number 1 Timberwolves-related podcast on the Apple Chartable rankings this morning. So if you're a Timberwolves fan looking for some fun Wolves conversations, we got Michael Grady and Jim Peterson as weekly guests on that podcast throughout the duration of the playoffs. The world has discovered Anthony Edwards for the first time, and I have a rant about that today, Judd. We're going to post a Flagrant House later today, so be sure to check that out, Apple, Spotify, and the Score North YouTube channel. All right, dudes, we will catch you guys again tomorrow here on Purple Daily, where we just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die. Could roast the Vikings organization.